The old woman stood alone in the freezing snow, clutching a worn handbag with trembling hands. Cars rushed past her without slowing down. The Christmas lights glowing across the street reflected in her tear-filled eyes. She looked frightened, confused, and completely lost. And as a struggling single father named Daniel watched her from across the road, he had no idea that helping her that night would change his life forever. Before we begin, if you believe that kindness always finds its way back and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories. Christmas Eve had never felt so lonely for Daniel Parker. At 37 years old, life had become a constant battle. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Emily, to a sudden illness. Since then, every responsibility had fallen onto his shoulders. He worked long hours as a warehouse employee while raising his 8-year-old daughter Lily on his own. Money was always tight. Some weeks, Daniel had to choose between paying bills and buying something special for Lily. He often skipped meals so his daughter could have enough. He never complained, but the weight of the struggle was slowly wearing him down. That Christmas was especially difficult. The warehouse had reduced employee hours, and Daniel's paycheck was smaller than ever. The tiny apartment they rented felt colder each day because he couldn't afford to keep the heat running continuously. Lily never complained either. She was a sweet little girl with her mother's gentle heart. Instead of asking for expensive toys, she spent her evenings drawing pictures and making handmade decorations from old paper. On Christmas Eve, Daniel left work exhausted. Snowflakes drifted through the air as darkness settled over the city. People hurried through crowded streets carrying gifts and shopping bags. Families laughed together while holiday music echoed from nearby stores. Daniel couldn't help feeling like an outsider looking into a world that belonged to everyone else. His wallet contained barely enough money for groceries. He had managed to buy Lily a small stuffed teddy bear from a discount store, and even that purchase had stretched his budget beyond comfort. As he walked toward the bus stop, he noticed someone standing alone near a park bench. An elderly woman. She looked to be in her late 70s. Her gray coat was covered in snow, and she appeared disoriented. She kept glancing around as though searching for something she couldn't find. Several people passed by without stopping. Daniel almost continued walking. After all, he had his own problems. But something about the woman's frightened expression reminded him of his late mother. He couldn't ignore it. He crossed the street. The closer he got, the more concerned he became. The woman seemed confused and cold. Her hands shook violently from the freezing temperature. Daniel gently asked if she was all right. The woman explained that she had become separated from her driver while visiting the city. Her phone battery had died, and she couldn't remember the address where she was staying. She looked embarrassed and scared. Daniel glanced at the falling snow. Leaving her there wasn't an option. The police station was several miles away, and public transportation was nearly empty because of the holiday. Despite his own financial worries, Daniel offered to help. He bought her a hot cup of coffee using the last few dollars he had in his pocket. Then he helped her sit inside a small diner where she could warm up. The woman thanked him repeatedly. As they sat together, Daniel noticed that despite her simple appearance, she spoke with unusual grace and intelligence. She asked about his life. Normally, Daniel avoided discussing his struggles, but something about her kindness encouraged honesty. He told her about losing his wife. He told her about raising Lily alone. He told her about working long hours and constantly worrying about the future. The woman listened carefully. Not once did she interrupt. Her eyes filled with compassion. Hours passed. Outside, the snowstorm grew stronger. The woman still couldn't remember enough details to find her destination. Hotels were fully booked because of the holiday. Finally, Daniel made a decision. It wasn't practical. It wasn't convenient. But it felt right. He invited the woman to spend Christmas Eve at his apartment until they could locate her family the next morning. The woman looked stunned. In a world where so many people ignored strangers, a struggling man with almost nothing was offering shelter to someone he had never met. When they arrived at the apartment, Lily greeted them warmly. The little girl immediately offered the woman a blanket and her favorite mug for hot chocolate. The elderly woman seemed deeply touched. That evening became one of the most memorable nights Daniel had experienced in years. They shared a simple meal consisting of soup, bread, and a few homemade cookies. It wasn't much. But it was filled with warmth. Lily showed the woman her drawings and Christmas decorations. The woman laughed often. Her eyes sparkled with joy. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt since Emily's passing. Peace. As midnight approached, they gathered around a tiny artificial Christmas tree standing in the corner of the apartment. The lights flickered softly. Snow continued falling outside. The elderly woman quietly observed the father and daughter. She saw the sacrifices Daniel made. She saw the love between them. And she saw something rare. Goodness. Not the kind that expects rewards. Not the kind performed for attention. But genuine kindness born from character. The next morning, Christmas Day arrived. Sunlight reflected off fresh snow covering the city. Daniel woke early and began trying again to locate the woman's family. A few hours later, everything changed. A convoy of luxury vehicles suddenly pulled up outside the apartment building. Daniel looked through the window in confusion. Several professionally dressed individuals stepped out. Moments later, there was a knock at the door. When Daniel opened it, a group of worried people stood there. The moment they saw the elderly woman, relief flooded their faces. Tears filled their eyes. They rushed forward. The woman smiled warmly. Only then did Daniel discover the truth. The woman was Margaret Whitmore, one of the most successful real estate investors in the state. Her business empire included hotels, office buildings, shopping centers, and housing developments worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The people at the door had spent all night searching for her. News reports had even been prepared in case she wasn't found. Daniel stood speechless. He had assumed she was simply a lost grandmother. Margaret turned toward him. Her eyes shone with gratitude. She thanked him for saving her from spending Christmas Eve alone and frightened in the freezing cold. Daniel shrugged modestly. He insisted that anyone would have done the same. But Margaret knew that wasn't true. Many people had walked past her. Daniel had stopped. Many people had ignored her. Daniel had helped. Many people with far more resources than him could have offered assistance. Yet it was a struggling single father who opened his home. After Margaret left, Daniel assumed he would never see her again. Life would simply return to normal. Or so he thought. 3 days later, he received an unexpected phone call. Margaret invited him to meet her at her office. Nervous and confused, Daniel agreed. The building itself was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. Luxury surrounded every corner. Daniel felt completely out of place. When Margaret greeted him, she immediately put him at ease. Then she shared something unexpected. Over the years, immense wealth had made it difficult for her to trust people's intentions. Many approached her seeking money, favors, or opportunities. Very few showed genuine compassion without expecting something in return. She explained that Christmas Eve had reminded her of what truly mattered. Character. Kindness. Humanity. Then she handed Daniel a folder. Inside was an offer that left him speechless. One of Margaret's companies needed a community outreach director for several charitable housing projects. The position came with a salary more than double what Daniel currently earned. Health benefits. Flexible hours. and opportunities for growth. Margaret believed someone with Daniel's compassion was exactly the kind of person needed to help struggling families. Daniel couldn't believe what he was reading. Tears filled his eyes. For years, he had fought tirelessly just to survive. Now, a door he never imagined possible stood open before him. But the surprises weren't over. Margaret had another gift. Through one of her housing programs, she arranged for Daniel and Lily to move into a beautiful affordable home with significantly lower monthly costs than their apartment. The burden crushing his finances suddenly became manageable. For the first time in years, Daniel could breathe. Months passed. Life transformed dramatically. Daniel excelled in his new role. His personal experiences allowed him to connect with families facing hardship. He helped people find housing. He supported struggling parents. He became a source of hope for others. Lily flourished too. She had her own bedroom, a small backyard, and a sense of stability she hadn't known since losing her mother. Most importantly, Daniel regained something he thought he had lost forever: hope for the future. Margaret became a cherished friend of the family. She often visited for dinner. She attended Lily's school events. And she frequently reminded them that the greatest gift she received that Christmas wasn't rescue from the snowstorm. It was a reminder that goodness still existed in the world. Years later, Daniel would often think back to that cold Christmas Eve. The night he almost walked past a stranger. The night a simple act of kindness changed everything. Not because he expected anything in return, but because helping someone in need was simply the right thing to do. And perhaps that's the most powerful lesson of all. Sometimes the smallest acts create the biggest miracles. Sometimes a single decision can alter an entire future. And sometimes the people we help end up changing our lives just as much as we change theirs. Before we finish, if this story touched your heart in any way, please take a moment to like the video, share it with friends and family, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always returns," if you believe that even the smallest good deed can make a difference in someone's life. As Daniel tucked Lily into bed one peaceful evening, he glanced through the window at the stars shining above their new home. He thought about all the struggles, all the sleepless nights, and all the moments he nearly gave up. Then he smiled. Because one snowy Christmas Eve had taught him something unforgettable. Kindness is never wasted. Even when nobody notices. Even when nobody applauds. Even when life feels unfair. Somewhere, somehow, every act of compassion plants a seed. And one day, when you least expect it, that seed may grow into a miracle that changes your life forever.